Hey guys, so I got another review for you today, and today I'm going to be reviewing a short film, and as you know, every time I review short films, I almost always come out of the Central Valley, and today's case is no different. This is from Michael S. Rodriguez, and one of his short films called The Dark Lullaby. This is going to be part of his Last American Horror Show Volume 2, which is a sequel to the last feature he did, which was Last American Horror Show Volume 1, which you can actually watch on TThe. I think you can watch it on Prime also, but I know for a fact you can watch it on TThe. In case you haven't even heard of TThe, it's a streaming site. It's starting to get some popularity. It's got a lot of great little films on it. It's really good for like kind of the B-rated horror films and whatnot. So, anyways, I like it. I like it especially for older 70s films and stuff. But you can watch Last American Horror Show Volume 1 on there and watch all the sort of creep show kind of campy horror goodness that Michael did there. Some of it is kind of the stuff I don't care for on the horror side, where it's like more gory and whatnot. But that's my taste. That has nothing to do with the quality of the film. Whereas what I've seen from Last American Horror Show Volume 2, because like the first one, he's essentially making all these shorts, and then the shorts are going to be put together with one wraparound coming out to an anthology film. The last one, though, only had 4 stories, including the wraparound. This one's going to have a whole bunch more, and I don't even know the exact number, but I know there's a whole bunch more. And I already did a review for one of them last year, I think it was, which was titled Jack Incarnate. And that one I gave a positive review because I really liked it. I especially liked the performances of Giovanni Casanova, and I thought Maria Olsen did great. I thought Tino, I'm going to forget his last name. I thought his first... I thought his part, Zamora, Tino Zamora, I thought his part was actually super good for, like, this small little part. He just, I don't know, he plays it very well, and, so anyways, The Dark Lullaby is one that I've been kind of bugging Michael about for a while, and I did get the chance to watch it a while back, but it didn't have a finished soundtrack, so now he allowed me to watch it again, but with the finished soundtrack. So now I get to actually review it and give you my thoughts on what I think of this film, and or this short film, and just what it looks like. Volume 2 is going to be like, which I think is going to be a huge improvement, or it's going to be a much better film. I think it just shows there's evolution clearly there. I think for me personally, I enjoy it a little bit more too, because some of the stories are kind of more in the arena of the type of horror I like. Although with Volume 1, I did really like the sea monkey episode. If you heard short, so if you haven't watched Volume 1, you should watch it. But anyhow, Volume 2 though, Dark Lullaby, the story essentially starts out with Joni, and the other character's name is Marinella, who is played by Donna Hamblin, and Joni's played by Helen. I don't know how you pronounce her last name. I think it's UDY, so it's like UD or something like that. And she's actually known for My Bloody Valentine, the old 70s version. Like, a lot of people know her from that, and she's kind of over the years has like her own little cult following. She's done a lot of various movies and shows and all these different things. Actually, My Bloody Valentine was not 70s, it was 81, so it was a couple of years off there. But and then there's also Lynn Lowry, who plays Dahlia, which Lynn was fantastic in Sea Monkeys for Volume 1, and she's just as good in this one. But I'm gonna go ahead and start with Helen, and I'm gonna start with Donna and their part, because it really just follows Joni and Marinella at the start of the film. It's basically the two of them are kind of, they're really good friends. They're basically spend a lot of time together, and they both see, they're both two very different people. Marinella's a lot more conservative, much more what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of more an introvert, whereas Helen's more of an extrovert. And I kind of like that dynamic. I, as an introvert myself, I have a lot of extrovert friends. It's just sort of something that seems to happen where, they say opposites attract, and, it's not just meaning in a romantic way, it's meaning on a personal way as well, like on more of a friendship way as well, I at least from what I could tell. And essentially there's this girl roaming the streets that I do not remember. Oh, I think her name is Harlow something. And she's running around in like what looks like this little like gown that they would give you in like a mental hospital, who's played by Giovanna Casanova. And you kind of run into her at one point. You don't know who she is. And things kind of get crazy involving her character. Now, I'm not going to say much of anything else. I don't want to give away the entire story. But basically, Harlow's running around this neighborhood, and these two women end up going through a very tragic event. And some time pass, and there are some hauntings and whatnot going on in their home that has to do with, or going on in Marinella's home, that has to do with the events that occur at the start of the film. I hope I'm saying it. Yeah, it's Marinella. So that occur at the beginning of the film. And so I'm going to go ahead and just look at this more from a technical perspective and look at it as the story. I think the story is really solid. I like the story. I like how, I like what's going on there. This interesting character. I like the names of all the characters. But when Helen and Donna have their part, when we first see their two characters, first there's like a phone conversation, then we see them in a car together. And right off the bat, you can, like, they bounce off of each other really well. Like, their acting is really solid. And it's really interesting because I feel like this short is much more of a sort of slow burn character piece from Michael, whereas I didn't feel like any of the volume 1 stuff was like this. And Jack Incarnate had the exact same thing. You had the conversation between Marie Olsen and Giovanna in the car, and it's a really good conversation with two very different and very distinct characters. Like, you feel like they're individuals, and you know their personalities throughout that conversation. You see how the conflict happens. And with the characters of Joni and Marinella, you kind of get the same feeling, where they have they're specific individuals, have a specific relationship, and they talk to each other a specific way, and they're very good friends. And you get all of that. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about this movie. And when Lynn Lowry comes in, she plays this, like a caricature, which she's really good at that, because she did the same thing with Night of Sea Monkey. She did the exact same thing in that film, where her character was almost like a caricature. What I mean by a caricature, or, it's sort of like an extreme version of a specific type of character. And it almost to the point that they're kind of goofy, or they're silly. Like, they're very comedic in nature. But it not in a way where it pulls you out of the film or makes you think anything negative about the film. Like, you're fine with her character. And I just feel Lynn Lowry, to me, when she steps into this film, she really steals the show. And she plays a character, like I said, named Dahlia, who's like this psychic medium that has, this television commercial. You call her up, she goes to your house and talks to you, like kind of like a palm reader type thing. And so she's like a really interesting character though, because every single one of her scenes have to do with Donna and or Marinella, and she's like in the home with her, talking with her. But it's really just interesting. I really thought Lynn Lowry, in a lot of ways, like in her small part, really kind of seemed to steal the show to me. Like, it was like, I really liked her character a lot, and I would almost kind of want to see this dark comedy with just that character, because I think it would be hilarious. I think it'd be really funny to watch, and it'd be really interesting to see where it goes. You know, I just, I'm trying to think where I want to go from here, because I'm kind of all over the place right now. But, you know, going from that character, I also wanted to talk a little bit about, like, some of the things, you know, the decisions that were made in terms of the camera and whatnot. There's the part where you have Helen and Donna sitting in the car together, and Michael does this really interesting thing with the camera lens where it focuses on one face when they're talking, then it focuses on the other face, but they both stay within frame. Focus just changes between each character. So it's like, rather than getting an extreme close-up where you would go up to each character's face individually, you're going to each character through the focusing of the lens. Now, you might be able to think of 1,000 movies, maybe, that has done that. I can't think of a lot that have. And when I first saw it, I thought it was really weird. And I almost thought it was a mistake. But afterward, like, I realized, no, this was done on purpose. And then when I watched it this second time, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, this is clearly a purposeful thing. And it's interesting because I kind of like it. I don't know if it's anything I would apply to my short films, but I really liked, you know, what that did, because it was kind of like the moving of the focus like a person would have. You felt like you were leaning in the car, listening to their conversations, and you're just looking at each of them, because your eyes can't just focus on both unless you stand back and look at both of them. So it kind of gives you the individual, like almost like the POV type of feel, where you feel like you're a person that's there looking at both of them, and your eyes are literally adjusting focus to each person as they speak, like you would do in an actual conversation. This is usually imitated with extreme close-ups. You have these scenes where you'll see a two-shot, you'll see two people speaking to each other, and then it moves into these extreme close-ups. And the reason you do these close-ups is because it's supposed to feel like a person that's looking at each person, talking to them. You as the audience become an individual in the film. But this movie goes for an entirely different version of that. And it's really interesting. And I know it sounds funny, because it's like you're supposed to be giving this review of this of a film, but you're going off on like a camera technique. And the only reason I find it important is because I think it really reflects on what this film does that makes it individualistic. One of the things I noticed more than anything else was the shots, was the use of shadows, the use of, you know, there's a part where you have blood pooled on the ground and you see somebody screaming in the blood. It's mirrored on the blood. How often do you see stuff like that? You just don't. And I think of all things that what I thought Michael did different in this than I've seen him done in anything else I've watched, including Jack Incarnate, was really heavy dialogue, a really slow burn where we got to know the characters while this incident is happening in their life. And there's almost a degree of, this doesn't feel realistic. But what you don't realize is that realism that you think isn't there is really the realism that you tend to apply to film. What you mean to say when you think that is a movie wouldn't typically do that. But this is a movie that is doing that, because it's doing something more realistic, because that's more real life. More real life is lots of boring bits of lots of talking. And that's not to suggest this is a boring film, because it's not. You're interested in the characters. You're interested in what they have to say. But what I'm saying is it's the boring bits in the sense that there's nothing action going on. You're slow burning through it, learning about the people while this thing, this event is happening almost as a subplot, not even as the main plot. And whether that was intentional or not, I think it's kind of the heart of the film. And I think it's what makes it work the most. Because I think the number one complaint for this film is going to be there's not enough action. But it clearly didn't intend on being action-packed. You know, it could have been this crazy, gory bloodfest, or it could have been this crazy poltergeist-type horror where you just have lots of stuff happening. But that's not what it's like. And I appreciated that, because it's a smart horror film. And it's something that, you know, I haven't seen from Michael, and something I want to see more of. I don't like comparing films. Although I do it, I don't like comparing films. But I would say of all of his shorts that I've seen, I'd want to put this one at the top of the list. Because I really do think this one is his most solid short film. Because it shows so much evolution in his technique. And I think that's what makes it different. I would kind of almost wonder what it would be like if he took another crack at this, what he would change. Because I know for a fact he would change something. Every director would. No director is going to go, you know, I have tons of projects I've done. And for me, I'm still learning. I'm like a student still. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not at the level of a professional or somebody who's making stuff and like I could say, well, I just make things and these are my projects. It's like, no, I'm learning to make films still. I don't even know if I know how to make one yet. But even still, so for me, it's easier for me to say, oh, I could go back and change this, and this in this short film. But for someone like Michael, it might be a little more difficult. Because he's made a feature. He's making a second feature. And he actually has another feature he made, which is a Lake of Shadows. And that's one that's supposed to be coming out soon. I think it was already supposed to have its premiere. But unfortunately, COVID-19 has slowed a lot of things down. But that's another one of his features. I forgot about that. So you have that sitting out there too. So when you have somebody who's made a feature, they kind of have already what you would call, quote unquote, made it. We often think of making it as, oh, you make a bunch of money. And it's like, no, that's not making it. Making it is if you can make a film. If you can make a feature film and you have it up on Amazon Prime, or you have it up on Tubi, or you have it up on Netflix or Hulu or wherever else, it is at that rate competing with every single film out there. Thus, you have made it. Especially if it's had a theatrical release. And Last American Horror Show Volume 1 had a very small theatrical release. That says something. So, anyways, I'm kind of going off on a rabbit trail here. My point is that I think this is interesting, though. I like what he did with it. I want to see what he does next. I want to see him do something else like this. Like the exact same thing. But see, not the same film, you know what I mean? But like the exact same type of film. But I want to see what he would add to it, because I think there is room for improvement, as there always is. And it'd be really, really interesting. I also wanted to say that I thought the makeup effects were stellar. They looked really good. And I also thought some of the ghostly poltergeisty type stuff that happens was really cleverly done. You could tell the budget wasn't there for something crazy. But what was done looked good. And it's interesting to me when somebody's able to pull that off. It shows like a lot of creativity involved. So anyways, I don't know why sometimes I talk about short films longer than I'll talk about a feature, but that's the case. So, anyways, thanks for listening, guys. I will talk to you later. Oh, and by the way, yes, this is a positive review. I don't really give ratings very often to short films, so I'm going to leave it at that. I'll just say it's positive. When this comes out in its entirety with the rest of the anthology, I mean to say, then I'll give the anthology itself a rating. But at this point, I don't like giving ratings to short films because short films oftentimes have limited budgets and stuff, and to me, it's like you're judging things on a scale in which you would judge every other film that has a much bigger budget. So, I can't really do that. And maybe I did do it with Jack Incarnate and some of the other shorts, but I don't know. With this one, it just doesn't seem like I really want. I really don't feel the need to do that. So, anyways, thanks for listening. I am going to be doing those Suspiria podcasts very soon. I've just been kind of tied up at work and a whole bunch of other stuff. I have a lot of things going on. So hopefully I get to Suspiria soon. I'm considering doing a review of both movies and just talking about both 2018 and the I'm going to forget the year, but I think it's like 76. I could be wrong though. Might be like 74. But the 1970 version, basically Dario Argento version versus the 2018 version. I really want to do a comparison of those two, and I also still want to talk about Black Christmas because that was a great film, and Exorcist is a great film, and oh man, there's a lot to talk about. I still haven't even reviewed Onward. I did see Pixar's Onward, and I do want to review that as well. So anyways, got a busy weekend ahead of me. Talk to you guys later. Bye bye.